Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see you came out on such a wonderful night out there with the weather. Welcome to the Thursday, October 28th quarterly Town Hall meeting of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District Board of Trustees. Again, we're very pleased to see you all. This is an open meeting. We have a couple things we'd probably like to discuss, but it's open to questions, to comments, to discussions back and forth. Again, we thought we had a lot more people, but again, because of the weather, I know that's what kept them away. So we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Amos will lead us, please.
My allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bruno, can we have a roll call, please? We only have a couple of mics, so we're going to be passing them back and forth.
Mr. Nugent. Present. Mr. Grinner, present. Mr. Marcy. Mr. Amos. Chairman Minor.
Present.
We also have with us tonight John Coffey, our district community manager. We have Michaela, our systems analyst. And down the end we have Cindy, who's representing the clerk's office. If we need a quorum, we have one.
Thank you, sir. Again, we have two things that I think we'd like to discuss tonight to get out with the public. One is on the agenda as a discussion of the charter cap. We want to do that. We also want to talk about the DOT term length referendum and the process of the new bill. And then into the audience. How would we like to proceed? We just want to talk about these things first, or with the audience, or what let's do?
My suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is if anybody in the audience, since we have a small crew, if they want to chime in, I'll run the microphone out to them. And if not, you all carry on conversations.
And so if you have some questions, John will bring you a mic and you can ask them. We would like to talk about the charter cap. That's number one. Do y'all understand what that is? You want to explain it?
The charter is a document that the state legislature in 1984 adopted that created Barefoot Bay Recreation District. There is a cap on new acquisitions of $25,000. It's not. There's been a couple of court cases, Attorney General's opinion, and it doesn't mean you can't buy a truck that's over $25,000. It has been defined over the years to mean property outside of the platted area, the common areas, or something that doesn't exist, like a centralized storage and maintenance building. That would require a referendum of the electors. In the past, previous boards have tried to raise that. There's a special act that was passed years ago that allows the electors to increase it to $125,000. And I believe the last time was 2014-15 era. The board put it out to raise it to $75,000 and it failed. In my opinion, it's failed in the past because if you get 50 people at the street dance and ask them what the $25,000 cap applies to, probably 35 won't know what you're talking about, and the other 15 would disagree on what it applies to. And so when you put something on the ballot that folks don't truly understand, most folks don't know what it means. Did I answer your question?
And so now let me tell you where we went with that. So $25,000 has been in effect since 1984. So think about it for a minute. We can't spend more than $25,000, and it's been in effect since 1984. We have a program called the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. We buy lots, we buy homes, we tear them down, we sell the lots, we make money, and we can't spend more than $25,000 for those. So in the past, we have had, I wish Rich was here, but he doesn't really need to be, and I'm the chairman of that committee, and we have trustees on it and other people. In the past, we have gone out to purchase, make a bid on a home, a dilapidated, maybe one single wide trailer kind of thing we would buy. And when we total up the cost of buying it and the fees and the taxes and all the things we have to pay, and let's say you come out to $25,100, we can't do it. And so we lose it to someone else who may buy it, flip it, turn it around, do some things, who knows what they would do. But we have lost homes and we've lost properties like that in the past. So a year ago, I think, Joe, I think it was a year ago when we tried to do this and said we're gonna go to 50,000, I think we talked about it. And we said, let's just even raise it to $50,000 and make sure people understand this is going mostly for the NRP program, so they can go out and purchase those properties. We're not gonna go out and buy a new boat or whatever. I mean, that's not, buy a new building. We're not trying to do that. We were all set to have the board go and vote on that and go and put it on the ballot. And that is when what we call the Tobias issue came up. And we had to make some accommodations with Commissioner Tobias so that they would not, so that the county would continue to collect our assessments. If they wouldn't have, we would have lost money. And because of all of that, we said, let's drop this. We can't have this going on a ballot when we've got this fight possibly going on also. And so we did away with it.
So, I'm sorry, but.
Go ahead, ask questions, anything you like.
Who has to approve that purchase if it's over 25?
What we would do is put it on the ballot. It would be a referendum
So it's
issue.
only like a budgetary item, would you say?
It's
Sort
like
of like a warrant article? Is that what it's saying?
It's anything that we don't have that's over 25,000. Like, if the appreciation of values of homes. 2 years ago, homes that were, the alternative would be like low-income housing, we could easily buy for under 25,000.
Right.
Now we're getting to where it's hard to buy that for 25,000.
Okay, got it.
And with real estate, you can't tell somebody, we'll buy you a house for 28,000 in 6 months because we have to wait for an election.
Well, the other thing that's happened is if we go back to $1984, $25,000 in 2021 dollars is now $64,000. And so, as John and Mike have adequately said, we're getting to the point where our highly successful NRP program is going to be hobbled by the fact that we have a charter cap.
And we don't try, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we educate better? Educate the community?
Well,
Like
I
in
was just gonna
town,
say, remember,
like in
we're
town
not-
halls.
there are no motions like this tonight. That's what we started
Right.
tonight, is this
Right.
education process.
Well,
That's
it's,
the whole point.
this is really discouraging to see an audience like this. When this is the type of, this is important. We get so many complaints, especially on Facebook, about the houses that are run down, they have rats in their houses, on and on and on. And people can buy it for $25, $100 over us and rent it out to somebody.
Exactly.
We need to be supporting the Bay. We have new complexes going up all the way around us. If we don't spend those monies that make us more than a trailer park, because that will be out there, we need to spend that money. We need to raise that, period.
And that's why we wanted to put it on this town hall tonight, because we want you to start talking to people. We want to have more of these meetings, so eventually the board will, I would hope, take a vote and say, yes, let's go for a referendum vote on this. But we don't want to do that until we notify people and educate them as to why we really want it. You know, there have been suggestions, and I'll give it to you in just a minute, Dick. There have been suggestions, well, let's go a certain percentage every year, and that's what it. In my mind, and when I was for this before and proposed it, all I'm trying to do is get a little more dollars into that NRP program so they don't lose out on some of the properties we've lost over. That's what the real focus of this, in my mind, should be. Other trustees could have a different idea of why it's there, but we can pretty much do what we want in other areas. We can repair buildings, we can do all of those kinds of things without referendums. If we want to buy a little property for $26,000, we can't do it. That's why we want to get this out to educate. Dick, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I've dealt with this before. I talked a year ago that I was willing to go more for a piece of property that was right next to me, but I needed the Bay to help me with the legal part of it. This situation, somebody died, it has to go through probate. There's about $15,000 in back taxes now. And these corporations are coming in doing this. They're going to buy it, rent on a golf course, probably tear it down or fix it up as easy as they can and rent it out. Because I dealt with this 3 years ago with the drug issue. And the police can't do nothing in that situation, believe me. So I had to use a facilitator, and they finally moved up there. So, you know, there's areas that us homeowners buy the property and it don't go to rack and ruin. Like this building has gone to rack and ruin.
I think if you want to look at success stories, let's look at the nut section. Over in the nut section, there was a lot of blighted homes over there. We had squatters, we had drug usage. Now, where those blighted homes are removed, the nut section is starting to look very good. And so we have a couple other sections in the bay, but again, as the chairman said, we'll get to the point where we're priced out based on a 1984 restriction.
My comment would be, okay, I think we're kind of with the small audience, we're in agreement, but what can we do to educate Barefoot Bay? Can we have a large write-up in the Townhall? I mean, we spread it around about this town hall, and we only have a small attendance. We need to take a large chunk of time, do town halls, the Tatler, call it something that people understand, label it somehow.
And you know, again, you're absolutely right in everything you're saying. As far as I was concerned, this was the start of what we're trying to do, okay? To get this out, to get everybody out there, say, start talking about this now. So you're right. One of my articles, and I'm not sure if people read my articles in the chat, but I do an article every month as a chairman, and one of them coming up has going to do with this, and it's going to do with the term limits. Again, I've written about the term limits before a little bit. I'm not sure if people read that or not, but you're also correct, and again, Richard back here is an idea. Any time, or maybe we have to look at some of our clubs, some of the really larger clubs, like the Great Lakes Club back there, and say, okay, if people ever have a few minutes, either John or I or Bruce or Jeff or somebody would want to come in and talk to you a little bit about a couple issues we have. And one of them is the charter cap. Now, I'm not looking to go and do more meetings, believe me, but that is what we have to start doing. That's how you sell bond issues, and that's how we have to start selling this thing. It's not a bond issue, but that's what we used to do. So you're right, we will. This is the start for that. Yeah, I can't do it.
She said older people. Yes, dear. She said there's a lot of older people, older residents here, been here a long time, and they're afraid of that dollar amount. I mean, you know, you're talking of $25,000. Well, it's been great for the last 25 or 30 years, and why should we even raise it? So we need to make them aware of what it's really for, and it has been, what, 30 years? I mean, you know, prices don't stay the same, so we definitely need more. And also now, we're starting to talk about this. We need to get to the other meetings, the other clubs and everything. Now, this won't be available to be on the ballot until next November, right? And it has to be on the election ballot. It's not one of the ones that we can just send out to the homeowners. It has to be voted on in a general election. So we have almost a year to push on this and get it going.
See, also my issue is the fact that with the NRP, I would agree with Elaine that education and understanding, it's imperative for us to do that so that individuals know what they're voting on during the general election. My other issue is that homes that are beginning to deteriorate, be that abandoned, unable to be rectified, need to be taken down because it depreciates the values of the property around it. And if we can fix it, and we can level it and make it a premier piece of property, then the value of your homes go up as well.
I got a question about voting. I've been in here, I purchased in here 2016, remodeled my home. I'm here for 6 months, but I can't vote.
That's a tough
I have people that live around me year round, and they're not here at these meetings, or they don't even vote.
And again, we can't control that because that's regular federal law. You know, you have to be a registered voter in the place that you live. Where are you from?
Alton Bay, New Hampshire.
And you're registered there so you can vote on it. Here, it's like that everywhere. It is. I mean, there's no.
Well, and I understand, right, but on these issues and stuff.
And again, you people, if you understand it, you have to get the word out to others too so that we can start talking to them and get this solved. And there are going to be, going back to your point too, there are going to be some people, you said some older folks who say, well, I don't. You're absolutely right. And there will be all people who will not understand this and they won't want it. But that's not a reason not to do it. I mean, what I'm getting at is I had someone just tell me the other day, and it's been 2 or 3 times I've heard this, someone, and I don't mean it that way, but someone told me the other day, they said, why don't we have tornado sirens, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, one time I checked into all that, and they don't do them, they don't do this, and I went through all the reasons why they don't have them, and I said, and besides, you get those alerts on your phone anywhere, severe weather, and she said, I've never had a cell phone. What are you going to do about that? There's not a whole lot you can do about that. If you never had a cell phone, then you're right. You're missing out on some things, and so there's not a whole lot you can do about that. But again, go ahead. Somebody else had a question.
As Elaine said, we do have to educate. And I think we're going to have to probably make some talking points on what this would be used for. For example, like the one I used tonight already, the nut section has come along nicely. And the other thing is, look at what $25,000 was. It's down over $64,000. I think the third talking point we need to think about is, since the NRP program started, Chairman Lino and Dave Wheaton have done a great job along with Richard Armington. We're breaking even. We are aggregately breaking even on the properties we're selling. So the seed money we put in it many, many years ago, we're still breaking even, and the public is gaining by the fact that we're getting rid of derelict houses. So that's the kind of way I think we have to sell it from how does it benefit the public?
And by the way, when I said that we lose, but we actually have lost some properties because of just a few $100s. And we would get a legal opinion from our attorney, and he'd say, you just can't do it. You can't do it. So, yes.
So 1984, 25,000, what should it be at this time, this year? At 100,000?
No, and let's go back to your point about older people. Let's say we say, well, let's go for 100. Let's go for 125,000 because we can do it. You're taking a chance now of somebody saying, well, what do they need that 125 for? And let me give you an example again. I know John doesn't like this sometimes. I go back to school districts. But I had a person who did a bond issue in a school district one time, and they went out for a brand new gymnasium, they went out for a pool, they went out for new offices, they went out for new parking lots, they went out for classrooms, and it was defeated 3-1. I went back in and I took over that school district 2 years later. I went back in and I said, I need 8 classrooms for a junior high school, middle school that we had to add on, and I need a new office there, and I need a guidance counselor. And just like that, it was passed 3-1 because people understood you're going for just what you need. What I'm trying to say is we have to convince people that this $50,000 would put us in a position where we can purchase these homes. I mean, we're not going to start buying them for more than 50. So why go out and take a chance? This is just my opinion. I'm not sure the rest of the board is. Why go out and take a chance and say, let's go for 100, 125, and then have a chance of it going down? 50,000, if they understand it, like Elaine is saying, they understand what the issue is, there's liable to be votes for it. Say, yes, we understand that. They want to buy properties to fix up the bay. It's better for all of us. So,
and I would debate.
That's why I wouldn't be in favor of going above it.
I would debate the chairman and just say, I would go to 75, but I would never touch 100,000. I think that's like the third rail of a subway line. Something about 100,000 is like, I think a number that scares people. I think we might make a case for 75.
Is there an average, Jeff? Is there an average on what those sales have been that say we've lost? Do you have any idea what, if you went back in records to see what, are they going for 35, 40? Where are they?
John's got that.
They've been under 30 because part of that is we try to get the worst of the worst. and also there's a limit on how much the properties are selling for. We just sold a couple properties, empty lots, and they were not on the golf course, and they sold for over 20. When we sell them in auction, it usually is about 75–80% of the private citizens sell for. So it's just the overall, the median home value of a site-built home in Brevard County is $325,000. A couple months ago, the average selling price of a home in Barefoot Bay was $144,000. 2 years ago, it was $88,000. So it's just rising up.
On this subject about the money, what we're looking at and what I see and I'm assuming other people see, what we're trying to do here is buy bad properties that need to be more or less torn down. We don't want to get into the real estate business. I can't see 75 personally to 100,000 limit on this. Because if you buy a house you're going to tear down for $75,000, I might have something to say to you about that. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to go that high, because people, first off, that kind of money scares them. And secondly, we don't need actually that much money for that project. $50,000 should suit us just fine. And like I said, if you're going to spend more than $40,000 or whatever, you're not going to get your money back. And right now, as Jeff said, it's done very well. We haven't lost any money. I don't know if we gained any, but we certainly improved the pay with what they bought and what they sold.
Not to beat a dead horse, but remember, some of the ones we lost were just right out of the $200. That's the point. It's that $25,000 cap. That's just ridiculous. So get it out anywhere so that we can buy these properties. We're not going to spend a fortune on it.
This property I'm talking about is on the golf course, it's right next door to me. Now, we're talking roughly in the $25,000 range. We're looking at this property on the golf course, because the house will have to come down. There's a corporation that picked up the back taxes. Now, I think that if our attorney would go in there and figure out the probate is, what's it gonna take to get somebody else's name on that property besides Jessica Horner and the 2 boys that are in prison up in South Carolina? And I don't want to have to go back to what I've done before with the drug issue. Somebody's moving in there like she's done before. So I don't know. I know that property is roughly in that $25,000 range, and I think they would take a few bucks if they could get it out. The problem is the probate issue. How do we probate that? She signs off on it.
Yeah, and I don't know that.
I don't know that either. So there's a good property there. You know, property in the golf course, I would think John's around $40,000 or so.
Michael, you made a comment going out to the clubs. You got the Irish club, the Polish club, the Italian club. Get on those.
I'm not going to the Italian club. I'll start drinking wine with Italians, start talking in Italian. I'll never get the information on it. I won't.
I'll take it.
I'm not going to Italian because I'll just be there. What is on? Come on. I'm not doing it.
Well, also, along with Elaine's idea of the Tyler peak of the week, but to me, clubs, presidents, like this one, get him and his club, Polish club.
Right, and we never got.
If they spend money, you know it's in.
What's that?
If they spend money, you know it's in.
Yeah, well, when we started this, remember, we were going to start talking about a plan, how we were going to go out and do this and sell it and get it out, and then we had to put it on hold. So you're all right. This is all the kinds of things we have to do if we want to sell something. And we have 2 issues we want to sell to the public. There's no question about that for referendum. So I agree with all of you that we have to start doing that. And I know everybody up here is going to be more than willing to go and talk and do whatever they have to do to sell it if they're for the idea.
I'll take the talent.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about this issue? We just wanted to start it tonight and get it out. The other issue we want to talk about, and then you can ask us questions about anything. The other issue, of course, is the it is the new law, the new bill that's been put together. Jeff was part of this, and our attorney, and Randy Fine. And that is, and let me just briefly do it, and then we'll go to the rest of the board. And that is the term limits of our board of trustees. And people get all excited about this, and they say the board has been the same for years, and they do this. And here's the issue that I ran on when I ran for this board. I had 2 or 3 things. And one of them is that we have a 5-member board. We have an election every single year. We're not going to have another election. It's an election every year as it is. 1 year we elect 2 representatives, 2 trustees. 1 year we elect 3 trustees. Let's say you have a pet project. Let's say you want a new bocce ball court. And we go out and we, as a board, we go out and we make the greatest, I'm using bocce ball because you mentioned Italian. We have the greatest bocce ball court there is out there. And we are really doing some good things for the people who want that bocce ball court. And the election comes up that year, and 3 new trustees get on the board. And just like that at the first meeting, the bocce ball court program could go away. Because they can say, no, we're not going to do that. That's not the way boards should work. You shouldn't be able to have a majority of the board come on and be able to do away with something that the previous board spent a lot of work and time on the previous year. Okay? Now I'm not to say that happens, it doesn't. But it's possible where 3 people can be elected and they can do away with something that the previous board did. We talked about all kinds of things. Let's have 7 members. Let's do this. We don't care how many members it is. So we came up with a bill with Jeff and went with our representative, our attorney, and Randy Fine. And they have a bill where you stay at 5 members, but you simply switch it to 3-year terms instead of 2-year terms. 3-year terms. You can't serve more than 6 years on the board, so you'd have 2 3-year terms. And you would have staggered elections. It would take you 1 or 2 or 3 years to do this. But in the future, then, you would never, ever elect 3 people in 1 year. You would elect one. There's a whole way they have to do it. What would happen the first year, the second year, third year. And from then on, you would then elect 2 people each year. So at least you would still maintain a majority on the board at every election. Now, this isn't a big deal. If people say, oh, there's something wrong with this, it's only so that a majority could not get together and say, let's run for the board, and we're going to do away with what they just did. I just don't think that's the way government's supposed to work. I don't believe that. And so we went out and started this, and that's where we are now, and we now would like to, at some point, get this on the referendum for a vote again of the people in November of 2022. And all they're voting on is not changing the number of members, simply the length of our terms. And I have to tell you, and then I'll give it to Jeff, I have to tell you that I, for one, will not ever be able to run for the board again. Because also in the bill is you can't serve more than 6 years. So if I was to run again the next time and get a 3-year term, I already served 4, I couldn't do it, I would not qualify for the election. And I'm happy to do that, because I think it's worth it. Jeff, you work with Randy Fine.
Cliff and I had an excellent meeting with Randy Fine, and one of the things of his concern was the fact that you could have 60% of a board turnover and undo all the work that a previous board did. And I think that's a little scary in today's world. The second thing that came up along here was longevity on the board. With a 2-year term, it takes a brand new board member a year to really become solid and really become learned in what's going on. So you have a year's learning curve, and then if you're going to run again, you got another whole year running for election. With a 3-year term, you have a year to learn, a year to be effective, and a year to run. So it actually changes the dynamic a little bit that way. I'm going to be in the same boat as Chairman Mino. If I were to be elected this time and then come back again, I can only take the 2-year term. And so it does also affect me. But I also think it's a really good, solid move for the Bay in protecting the integrity of the government. So right now it's going to go up to legislature. Randy thinks he's going to have a good shot. We had a really good meeting with Debbie Mayfield and the other group up at the delegation in Vieira. And it does finally come back here to the Bay for a referendum. So it's not a done deal. It's just one of those things that a little bit of education and it can go a long way.
By the way, if I don't get elected next Tuesday, I don't have to worry about it.
Get another shot further down the line.
Again, questions on that? You understand what we're talking about? I mean, again, it's going to take education for people to say, we're not trying to change the dynamics of anything. We're simply trying to make it so that a majority of the board would never be elected in 1 year. And it protects what people want. I don't know any other way to put it. It's something I think would be very valuable. Questions of anybody, comments? Good. Anything else on that? What would you all like to talk
I
about? Talk
have
about
a
anything.
question on that.
The only question I have on that is that it hasn't happened in the past. The boards have carried on all the projects that were in process. Is that correct?
They did what? I didn't understand.
Okay, it hasn't happened in the past where any of the jobs or the in-process projects that have been voted on have stopped? No.
Well, no, I'll say no and yes. Go ahead.
You'll say no and yes, so it has.
It hasn't, not because a majority of the board was elected. However, not because the majority of the board was elected. However, it can happen when you get 3 new board members
I know,
on.
it
You have to
can.
understand
I
that.
understand.
We, in fact, had an issue that the previous board had adopted that I went along with, even though I wasn't in agreement with it. I went along with just because I wanted to be unanimous with the board at the time. And the following year, we got 3 new members because of appointments, because of different things, and we threw that project out. I was happy because I wasn't for it in the first place. All I'm saying is, I want to get rid of the possibility of 3 people running as a group, even as a coalition, to change something on the board. They would then be the majority. You just want to make sure that can't happen. That's what you don't want to happen.
So you're protecting that.
Protecting the integrity of what previous boards did. Right or wrong, that's what they did at the time, that's what they did, the people elected them. You're protecting the integrity of what they did.
Now, that's not to say that it still couldn't happen. This is not going to be something that would guarantee that the new board can't change it. We've had this previously, it was a big issue. The board passed it, we were all for it, everything happened. The residents didn't like it. They voted 2 of them out that year, and the deal was gone. So it only took 2, really. So it can still be changed with 2 new people. But if you have 3, like Mike is saying, there's a good chance they could make a coalition and turn over things.
It's just
But it's
protecting
not
the coalition.
But it's also not a guarantee that you can't change something that needs to be changed. It's not going to stop.
Any one of these trustees can come up here and change their mind on any issue and say, no, we're going to vote that out. That's fine. That's their prerogative. It's just not so you get away from the fact that 3 going together, get on a board to throw something. That's what we think.
One thing you have to say is that no matter what, whether it's 2 years or 3 years, it's a total of 6.
Yes, total 6 years.
And in this case, it's a total of 6. Right now, it's a total of 6. It's a term limit. You can serve 3 2-year terms consecutively. You have to take 2 years off. We go to these 3-year terms, then you can serve 2 3-year terms consecutively. Then you have to take 3 years off before you can run again. But in our case, you can run again. We don't have the term limits that you serve when you're out, like our state does.
2 of the questions that Randy Fine asked Cliff and myself. First 2 questions right out of the box. Are you willing to extend the term? And then Cliff explained to him that we're going from 3 2s to 2 3s. Okay? Randy Fine was happy. He said that is a killer at the state legislature. The second question he asked was, are you going to have more elections? In other words, do we have to pay to bring the voting booths in here more than we're doing now? That answer is also no, because we have an election every single year. So we passed the number one and the number two tests that'll kill this up in the legislature. And after that, he was just all go with it.
Remember that when you run for an election, if someone who may run, you have to qualify for the election. There's certain things you do, you have to come to qualification. In this instance, as I understand it, if this bill passed, and let's take my case, and so let's say I wanted to run again in the year that this would be effective, well, it would be a 3-year term that would be coming up. I already have 4 years in at that time. I would not even be allowed to run. I wouldn't qualify. I wouldn't be allowed to run for 4 years. So it prohibits you from going more than the 6 years, because the term would be 3 added on to 4, I couldn't qualify, which is fun. Anything else? Other than that, you can ask questions, bring up anything you like. We're sure not going out in that rain right now. Oh. You might be in for the night. Beach.
Not a change in
John Sabiri?
Hey, let's get the answer we gave him last night at the candidate
Can I read this? Okay, as you know, it came up last night, and I said I ran for 3 issues 2 years ago. One of them was the beach restroom. One of them was getting a new kitchen stove in the 19th hole. And one of them was this business of the 3-year term, I mean, the majority getting on the board. Okay. And the beach project has just been one of those that's been, it's been every meeting you just wanted to ask so many questions of why isn't this happening, why isn't this happening. In December, or I think it was December, maybe January of 2020, I think. It was 2020, right? Yeah. We bought a building, okay? I'm going to give you, and I'm going to read John's email. We bought a building. We thought we could put it in at the building, at the beach. It's a new restroom. We're going to do all this. We found out that the county now said you had to have what's called pilings and drive them in. And so we thought, well, okay, but pilings could be anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000. Right. And we all agreed, let's go for a waiver on this. But at the same time, the board voted and said, no matter what, we're going to put the beach restroom in. Okay? But let's try to get a waiver. We have been trying to get that waiver since December, January 2020. So here's John's email. He said he heard this was last night. It's all right, isn't it? I mean, I don't mean to, okay. Just some bullet points. This is the 3rd highest ranked request for non-active recreation projects in January 2016. As part of a grant program, Townhall meeting, and the grant was later discontinued as residents wanted support projects more than active recreation projects. This was discussed as part of a bond-funded capital program in 2017 and 2018 by the BOT. This was included in the fiscal year 19 budget as part of the proposed 2018 bond fund. 2019, the BOT canceled the bond fund and reprogrammed project into fiscal year 20 general fund. The structure was purchased in 2020. I believe it was December 2020, I believe, yeah. It was purchased in 2020. We later found out the county now using FDEP standards requiring 40-foot pilings at a cost estimate of $80,000 or more in 2020 dollars. Referred to attorney to file appeal of building code interpretation on May 3rd, 2021. If pilings not required, tasks remaining include disconnection of CCTV system, water well, and electricity. Solicit for general contractors to submit bids for demolition of existing building, installation of septic tank and drain field, and reconnection of water and electricity. Award of the contract, permitting, Brevard County building permit, Brevard Health Department for septic tank system, demolition of existing building, installation of septic tank, drain fields, stub ups, whatever that is for utility connections, and pad for building, delivery of the building, connection of utilities, reconnection of CCTV system, official first flush by the chairman. So, you know, I mean, this could be 5 years from now. I mean, I won't be chairman for chairman. So again, John was trying to tell us from the meeting last night, there's a whole lot going on this. It's not that simple. On the other hand, I feel we have personal opinion. It has nothing to do with our staff. I feel we have not progressed on this like we should have with finding out whether or not the permitting, whether or not the pilings are required, whether or not we can get the waiver. We passed a motion way back in, I believe it was January, saying whenever we found out about the pilings, we passed a motion on this board saying no matter what, we're going to put it in, even if we have to pay for the pilings. Here we are 9 months later, and we still don't have a beach out there. Somebody asked me last night, when is that going to get in? It's going to get in the next few months, hopefully. I mean, we just have to get an answer, and if they're not going to answer, let's just put the damn thing in with the pilings in. Because we just got too long.
It's just been too long. It really, really has. And I'm not the only one speaking in that voice. I'm sure it's a lot of people, but the thing is that if you would address something a year and a half ago, and you still haven't got anything, and then the legal and all of that hasn't been through, it takes, I know it takes forever to work with the state. I really do. And they have their priorities. So
But you realize, even from John's email to us today, it's been a long process of talking about this beach thing. It has been.
Oh, it is.
It's one thing after another, put it off. We get it back on, somehow it gets put off again. So it's
Mr.
been a
Chairman.
long process. And believe me, if everyone here, including Mr. Coffey, if we could get that beach restroom in tomorrow, we'd all haul it out and put it on.
Mr. Crosby knows how things can lag on and on and on. Obviously, maybe a lot of the bigger projects, they do take a while for them to get finished, in a sense. We could be sitting here and saying it's gonna take 18 months, but in reality, it's 2 years. You know?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Looking back a year ago, when I came on board, one of the primary statements every month, every meeting almost, what's happening with the beach? What's happening with the beach? And I keep on getting, well, we got to get back to you. When are you going to get back to me? The next meeting. Well, the next meeting came around.
And it got pushed off.
And the pilings came up. We could have had that done without the pilings, okay, before it's been put off and all. So we just kind of screwed ourselves up many times.
Yeah, but what I understood is there was a permit already there in place when we started the project. So we had all the paperwork, but they changed the law, and then what happened is we didn't go back and say, hey, we already have a permit, but permit time had to run out.
And we called it a waiver. We tried to say because of these things, we want a waiver on this so we won't have to do it.
Right.
And again, because of the size of the building and what it was and the structure, it's just been months trying to get that waiver and find out what's going on with it.
And the other part of that, Chairman Miner, is the fact that it's been a volleyball at the county and state level as to who has jurisdiction. It first went to the county construction board. They said they didn't have jurisdiction. Then the construction board said that if Florida Environmental Protection says it's okay with us. Then you have CAFRA in there, the Coastal Facilities Review Act. And so the thing is, it's getting tossed all over the place at a government level higher than us.
We need a lobbyist.
Well, a lobbyist or greater activity from the legal point of view.
Right.
What else do you have?
Yeah, really.
Lane, there must be something else you want to know, no?
I have something quickly. I am very, very proud to see the Barefoot Bay rising. I am very happy to see Barefoot Bay rising in the conditions of the properties that you have stated, that they're really being brought forward. Things have been looking really, really well. People are taking care of their own properties as well as their animals in their place. I know we have these little things that happen outside, but I find it a very pleasure to be involved in Barefoot Bay and live here.
Thank you.
You guys are doing a good job. I just wish there was
Mr. Costa.
saying before the meeting was nobody's gonna ever reach my 14 years in a row.
No, that's for sure, they're not gonna be in his 14 years, no.
He has-
They won't be, it'll be there.
Oh, thanks a lot. I know you keep saying about the bathroom up and everything. I know you won't get done within 3-4 months because first of all, you have to get the permits for that and everything. Then we gotta search for a contractor and all that stuff, and so it'll be a time consuming. Yes, I'd like to see it done. I wanted to see it done years ago, but there was some setbacks and that got postponed, everything, like a few other jobs were postponed. But I mean it this way, I did push for a lot of stuff, I know the admin building. Years ago, they went for a new admin building here, but I was totally against it where it was, and I didn't want to have a trailer put in there, magic trailer, whatever it is. But I was glad we finally got this building here, and it was well worth waiting for it. So I figured myself, I took the honors of supporting that, and quite a few other things that were done here and everything, and I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of Barefoot Bay and the past board of trustees and the board of trustees we have now, so. But I'll tell you what, I know if you get reelected, then you can't run again, but the only thing I have a title I can hold on to that nobody can touch me for 14 years.
You know, you shouldn't have given him that mic. I mean, it just go on and on and on and on. And seriously though, one thing I talk about a few months from now, and I made that comment last night we had the candidate forum last night. Seriously, within a few months, we're going to get an answer to this one way or another. I'm not saying we're at the beach yet. We're going to get an answer to this one way or another. That's what's going to happen. And then we're going to proceed one way or another within the next couple of months. I'm not saying how long it'll take to install it, but we're not going to keep. We wanted to get answers on this, as Jeff or someone said, maybe Mike said this. We wanted to get answers on this in the last few months. For a number of reasons, we could never get that answer. Things happened. And now we're in the process of going even for a new general counsel. So we're going to get an answer one way or another in the next couple of months, believe me.
I think we'll have that in by next December.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jim. Jim, go ahead.
And I think there is a commitment on the board that will give it X number of days, and if we do not hear back that they had granted us the waiver, I think we'll push that aside and as a board, vote to put in the pilings and get the project started.
Exactly, that's my point. Somewhere we're going to make a decision in the next couple of months, believe me. Once we get an attorney on board and we do some things, and we're going to make a decision. What else would you like? Yes, ma'am.
CDO gets questions about Stewart going in on an empty lot there. Do we have
Use the mic because we can't.
Do we have any updates on Stewart's urgent care going in between the two banks? Is it really going to happen, or are we stumbling on that?
Well, we signed the lease. We signed the lease, and as Cliff said last night, with Stewart Medical Group, right?
Right.
Yeah. We signed the lease last night. Cliff said last night, I believe, or the other night, that the attorneys had just a minor little grammatical kinds of things in the contract that changed, but they were nothing that was going to change the lease. So they are supposed to agree to it, I guess, and it's on the way. It's a done deal.
Okay.
So that's what we understand, right, John? I'm not, we signed the lease after 8 or 9 or 10 months, we signed the lease, and everything's agreed to. They had some minor changes in language that didn't affect the lease. It might have been thus and thee and no, and,
Right.
so we have a lease with them.
Good. All right. Thank you.
The delay on that wasn't necessarily anything that Cliff or the board did.
No.
The delay was the fact that Stewart Medical Group changed their legal counsel to down in Houston now, down in Texas. So they took any of the legal contract writing away from the local Stewart hospital here, and all contracts came out of deputy legal counsel in Texas. And like Chairman Mina said, Cliff seemed very optimistic that it was just grammatical, editorial type things.
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
get to see the new position of where the building was going to be, to see if they were going to have a circular driveway or not, or if it was going to abut that parking lot at our?
Do we know what the building? We have a general plan of the building where it will be. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In the parking lot and everything, yeah, schematics, we have, yes.
The site plan, the revised site plan has the entrance off of Button Road.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, but not a circular, because
No, circular, no.
No, they're using every square inch of that for water retention part.
So are they putting the building in this parking lot?
There's a setback, it's towards our shopping center.
Okay.
It's, not, the back corner, if you're looking from Wells Fargo, you're looking at that corner, but not right on the parking lot, there's a setback.
Okay.
It does not connect to the Holy Cannoli RJ parking lot. Totally comes off of Dogwood or Buttonwood.
That's it. Anything else? We are doing, yes, sir.
They were gonna put a fence over, where the water and sewer company is, on the grass, to keep people from parking on the grass. What has become of that?
A fence? Why
A
would-
fence.
Well, we put the ballots on them down that road. We put them there where the person was parking across the street.
Right.
We have them going almost all the way down the block now. And I believe at some point we're gonna go all the way down the block. So it's probably 2/3 of the way down the block. They can't park where those folks are now.
Okay.
However, you know, if you notice, sometime all of a sudden, right at the end of it, you'll see someone park on the end of it. We're going to put it all the way down the end of the block.
Fair enough.
Anything else? If not, we're gonna look for a motion to adjourn. Okay? Yes? You have something else?
No, it's
Oh.
not raining.
Huh?
It's not raining, it's sure.
I know. Anybody want a motion to adjourn? You have a motion to adjourn? Let's all in favor. Everybody say aye, we vote. Motion to we're adjourned. And thank you for coming. Nice, bad night, but thank you.